Hello everyone, George here, Catholic Positive Energy. I'm sorry that I didn't broadcast on Wednesday. Even though I am on break from school right now, I still have a lot of things going on in my life, you wouldn't believe it, but I'm not as busy as I am when I do have school, and I'm really enjoying my time off. It's been wonderful. So I know on the last broadcast I was hoping to do this week's broadcast on the beauty of the Holy Rosary. That's going to have to be delayed until a future date, but I will try to work hard on that one. This week's broadcast, I thought I'd talk about time heals all wounds. Now, a lot of you know what I'm referring to here. Time heals all wounds. Now, I'm sure many of you, now obviously, as far as I know, everybody who's a member of Catholic Positive Energy is an adult. So I don't believe we have anybody here under the age of 18. Now, if we do, I really want to know. See, I want you guys to communicate with me. I like to personalize this. I don't want you to think, oh, I'm some public figure and I'm never going to have time to notice you if you make a comment on one of my videos, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube. Yes, I read them and I respond to them. Now, if I had 1 million followers, I wouldn't be able to do that, but I'm not that famous. I don't even know if I consider myself famous right now, but I'm just being humble and sarcastic. But if we do have any members here who are under the age of 18, please tell me. I know somebody subscribed to my YouTube channel back in June. I won't say who this is, but I know that person's 18. I know we have an 18-year-old here, but I'm sure that they already know this. Now, if we have anybody here under the age of 18, please tell me. Please let me know. Now, if you're under 18, you may not know what I'm referring to here. Time heals all wounds. Now, I'm sure many of you have been through some traumatic or some really unpleasant memories in your life, and you were really messed up for a while. Maybe you fell apart and you were not in a good place mentally, emotionally, or even spiritually. And it probably took you maybe a couple years to get over that. I can vouch for that myself. There have been times in my life, I've suffered a lot of bad things throughout my life. Now, I've talked about this in past broadcasts. Now, I forgive me for using the words I'm using here. I'm not going to use profanity. I've never been raped or anything like that. No, thank God. But I'm not putting anyone down who has. But I just want you to know what I have not been through, because I want to make that clear. Oh, he's probably been through this. No, I haven't. Not that. There have been times throughout my life when I've been through some really, really bad, unpleasant stuff, mostly when I was a kid, when I was younger. And there have been a few things that have happened in my life that took me several years to get over. Now, time heals all wounds. Now, since I've been a kid or since I've been a teenager, I have learned a lot. A lot of time has passed between then and now in my life. So, after a lot of years, I got over it. I eventually moved on. Now, this gives me an idea for a future broadcast. See, I like to talk about things in greater detail, and I can't do that all in just one broadcast, because then I'd probably be talking for like 2 hours, and I'm not going to do that here. But I'll talk about like one thing in one broadcast and one thing in another. That's just my style. Please let me know if you would like me to change it up, mix it up. But anyways, to get over something traumatizing and traumatic and negative and devastating, sometimes it takes you a few years. Now, let me use some visual examples. Famous fictional characters. I like to use this one as an example. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the detective show Monk. I love that show. And when it was still on TV before it was no longer having new episodes, see, I was much younger then, and there was a lot I didn't understand about that show. Like, I always thought to myself, now Detective Adrian Monk, he lost his wife after 7 years of marriage to a car bomb, and it just devastated him. For him, it's like time stopped. And I remember an episode where he's talking to his friend who's a police captain who he works with, and Detective Monk, he kept everything his wife ever owned, including a watch she gave him that stopped working. So the captain said to him, "Why don't you get a new watch?" "I can't. Trudy gave me this watch." He said, "So you're going to go the rest of your life not knowing what time it is?" He said, "Maybe." He said, "You need to start thinking about your future. You need to think about letting go." And he said, "What future?" "I don't have a future." He said, "Yes, you do." Now, that is a true statement. Everybody here has a future, even if you've suffered something very devastating. And trust me, I do sympathize. I'd like to think, and I'd like to hope that by now, for those of you who have been watching me for a while now, you know that I'm a sympathetic guy. Now, for those of you who may not know that yet, or may not have been following me that long yet, yes, I am a sympathetic guy. Now, ultimately, when a person has suffered something very negative and traumatizing, the ultimate goal is to move on, but that's not always possible right away. Time needs to go by. There needs to be a healing process, maybe even a grieving process, and a way to, rethink and rebuild and restructure your life after suffering something that was not good. Now, one of the reasons I'm talking about this, I wanted to get that out of the way first so we understand this way of thinking, because I've been through this. I've been on both sides of this fence, trust me. Now, when I've been on both sides of a fence and I understand something from both angles or several different angles, it's a lot easier for me to talk about it here and describe it in greater detail, because a lot of people tend to look at something from just one perspective rather than looking at it from different vantage points. To truly understand something, you need to look at it from different angles and from both sides of the fence, okay? Don't be one-sided. Now, here's something I'm getting to. Something has happened in my life. Now, I haven't talked about my personal life much over the past year. I'll talk about it a little bit here. I've only mentioned it very briefly in past broadcasts. I probably only mentioned it maybe once or twice. And I don't want the whole video to be about this, but I'm going to talk about this just for a little bit, and I'm going to start expanding. So, a year ago, November 2021, I used to be in a relationship with my ex-fiance. We were together for 12 years, and eventually we broke up, and I was very devastated. I was very messed up for several months. And I can't even believe that my grades didn't suffer, because I was very sad and I was not happy. And it was very difficult for me because I never thought I'd be alone ever again. But what happened. I needed time. Time heals all wounds. Now, I obviously wanted to move forward and try to start with someone new much sooner, but it just didn't happen. And I tried. I really tried. I went out and I tried to meet people, mingle with people, things like that. I did everything I could possibly do. I went on, I dated, some women it was just one time, and I realized it wasn't meant to be, so I didn't go out with either one of them a second time. This was 2 separate moments. But I certainly do not include those because it was just a one-time meeting and nothing happened, so moved on. I just recently now, I'm seeing somebody now. I have a new girlfriend. I don't want to give away names or talk about details, but I'll just say I'm seeing someone now. And it's only been a week and a half, and yes, I'm a lot happier now. And I'll just say this, because I was alone for a whole calendar year and I didn't want to be. When I finally met her in person, we started holding hands, and we went on a really nice date. We went bowling, which is something we both love to do. And when we kissed, I just felt like something, my thoughts were just spinning like a cyclone or a tornado in a good way. And this is how I felt, and this is what I said to her. I've been very lonely for a year now, and now I don't feel lonely anymore. She looked at me and she smiled, and then I smiled. So, like I say, I went through something very devastating a year ago, and I got to tell you, I tried obviously not to talk about it here because, I obviously want to present a positive image, but I just mentioned it a little bit, like maybe in 2 different broadcasts, but I tried not to talk about it at all. For me, my situation now, time healed my wounds. Time heals all wounds. Now, sometimes, depending on what you went through, thought I was going to sneeze, sorry. Sometimes they just jump out, so hopefully I don't sneeze while I'm talking. Please forgive me if I do. Anyways, time heals all wounds. Now, sometimes somebody went through something very traumatizing, like maybe they lost a loved one, or something very unexpected happened in their life, and it was, let's say one day you wake up, and it was such a beautiful day, and you felt like you were on top of the world, and everything was going real wonderful in your life, and maybe, I'm just thinking of random things, I'm not picking on people. Let's say maybe you got into a car accident, and now you have some broken bones, and you're in shock, and you're not happy at all from a personal, mental standpoint because you weren't expecting that. In the morning, I'm feeling on top of the world and things are going really well, and now all of a sudden I have broken bones. Oh man, I didn't like that. I'm really unhappy, and I'm going to be really screwed up for several years because of this. Now, normally people don't choose to be that way right off the bat. It just sort of happens. I understand that. Some things happen unexpected. It wasn't good, and it's very bad and overwhelming and very upsetting. You're not going to be happy or positive like the way I try to be all the time. You won't be if something like that happened to you. But regardless of what you've been through, whatever it was that anybody went through, maybe you're going through something right now and you're listening to me talking to you, okay? Now, regardless of what you've been through, whether it was something really, really huge or something insignificant or maybe something in between, regardless of what you've been through, ultimately, whatever it was you went through, time heals all wounds, okay? You just need time. Sometimes people need several years. Sometimes people might need 10 years. I once heard somebody tell me, this person is no longer a part of my life. They moved away a couple years ago. I'll just say what they said. Somebody went through a very devastating divorce, and it took them 30 years to get over it. Now, some of you are probably thinking, now I want you to learn from this. I'm not trying to make people look bad. This is all for learning. Now, some of you are probably thinking now, wow, it took someone 3 decades just to get over something? Wow, boy, talk about not being able to move on. Now, hang on. Well, that person, you were not in that person's shoes, so please try not to judge. It was very devastating and traumatizing for them, and it took them 30 years to get over it. Now, I don't know what was going on in their life during those 30 years. I didn't know them at all during those 30 years. I met them much longer after the fact, and then they told their story, and I was just wowed by it. Now, sometimes it takes people a really long time, maybe even a lifetime or half a lifetime to get over something. Whatever it was, things can be difficult. And I've noticed a lot of people have a tendency to judge. Like I remember one time I was talking to a friend years ago about something that I had a hard time. I let it bother me for like 6 years. And I told a friend of mine, maybe it was 7, it was 7 years. 6 or 7 years, about 6 years. And my friend said to me, wow. They felt like, man, they couldn't believe that I let something bother me for that long. Now, Now I don't do that to others. I mean, if you were to tell me, like, let's say we're alone and maybe we're having lunch or dinner and you open up to me, I love having meaningful conversations with people. I really do. Sometimes you click with people instantly, or sometimes it takes a while. But now, if someone were to tell me it took them 50 years to get over something, I would be shocked, but I wouldn't judge them thinking, well, why did you let this bother you that long? I mean, please don't do that to people. Or if somebody makes you feel that way, don't tell them what you're thinking. If that's what you think and how you feel, please don't tell them that, because they won't like that. I wouldn't like that. So I would just ask them very nicely and respectfully, well, why did you let it bother you for that long? Now, everybody has a different reason. Well, it really hurt. And I feel like I never really got over it completely until 5 decades later. So, ultimately, time heals all wounds, because you got to think about it, heal from it, learn from it, and then move past it. Now, I'm sure that there are professional psychologists or sociologists who could talk about this in greater detail. I'm speaking from the heart here. But ultimately, like I say, when you suffer something bad, no matter what it is, you think about it, heal from it, learn from it, and move past it. Amen? So, yeah, I mean, every horrible thing I've ever been through in my life, big things, not insignificant things, I've thought about it, learned from it, healed from it. I'm going out of order. Thought about it, healed from it, learned from it, and now I've already moved past it. I don't want to get out of order. Somebody will probably say to me, George, now you're going out of order. You said this and now you're saying that. Well, it's my show. Anyways, I'm just kidding with you about that, my show part. This is our show. So that's ultimately what I mean. Time heals all wounds. And sometimes it takes people years or even decades to get over something. And I'm just going to say, if you ever meet somebody who has told you that it took them 30 years, 50 years, 60 years to get over something, please don't judge them. Please don't think to yourself, well, how could somebody let something bother them for this long? Now, ultimately, here's something that a very dear friend said to me just a few days ago regarding this topic. Now, if you are somebody who has been devastated about something for a lot of years, including to this day, and you're watching me right now, please listen to me right now. Listen to what I'm about to say. You need to live your life. My dear friend said to me a few days ago, live your life. Now, if you're allowing something to devastate you, let's say, now either literally or metaphorically, let's say something devastated you and now you feel that you can never leave your house because of this, then you're not really living your life. You're putting yourself in an emotional prison. If you're choosing to just stay home because you're devastated because something terrible happened to you, you're not living your life. You're not. And, it's like living in fear. Let's say you're afraid of heights, so you choose to avoid tall buildings, or you choose to never go anywhere where you're off the ground at a high elevation. You're not living your life, really. You're not. Now, me, I used to be afraid of heights, but I was never, traumatized by it. But, no, I'm not afraid of heights anymore now. Just recently, about 3 weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas, and I visited the top of the, you would know it better as the Stratosphere. Now it's called the Strat. New ownership, new name. And I went to their tower, and it's 108 stories high. I wasn't afraid at all. Now, maybe if I would have went up there, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, then I probably wouldn't be talking like this. But, when you're a little kid, you're very different than you are as an adult. And I can tell you I'm a lot different now than I was 25, 30 years ago. Much different. Totally different. So, anyways, like I say, time heals all wounds, and you need to live your life. If you're someone who lives in fear or devastation, you're not, in my opinion, you're not really living your life. I guess you'd be maybe in the hurt/healing process if you're in that, if you're living your life like that. I'm hurt, I don't want to leave the house because I'm hurt, or I don't want to be in a tall building because I'm afraid of heights. Okay, well, eventually you need to overcome that. And you're not there yet if you're thinking and feeling like that. Now me, I'm trying to live life to the fullest, without fear and without devastation. I'm not saying that I'm never going to be devastated ever again. I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be times when I will be. Life has, a habit of, hitting you in the face with unexpected things, good or bad. As far as good, and I always put this at the top of the list as far as unexpected good things. Some of you who know me well. 4 years ago, I won a car in a car raffle at church, and I was not expecting that at all. I wasn't even praying for that. I bought some tickets, and I'd enter into some of those car raffles at that very same church years prior, and I never won. And I wasn't expecting to in 2018. But when I did, it was the biggest shock of my life, and I got to tell you, my life was overwhelmed with so much positive energy. I'd like to think that was kind of like the starting point. I wouldn't quite say the birth, but it started something, and I eventually got to where I'm at now. I was overwhelmed with positive energy, and I had never been before. So, like I say, time heals all wounds, and you need to live your lives. We all need someone to talk to. And I'm sure all of you have people in your lives who care about you and love you unconditionally, whether it be a family member, a friend, spouse, significant other, whoever. I'd like to think that everybody watching me knows people. You know people who care about you. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody here who's an isolationist who never talks to anybody, but, I'm sure even if you were, you probably wouldn't tell me about it. But I'm just saying, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody like that in this community, but even if there was, I would still love that person and care for them anyway. Because I do care about all of my community, all of my followers. But yeah, I think I've already repeated myself at least twice. I don't want to go on and on. But that's the ultimate takeaway I want you to have here. Time heals all wounds, and you need to live your lives. So, hope you enjoyed that. Now, next week, yes, we should be having our meditation and prayer broadcast. Last week, I did the rosary, but I can't believe I forgot the meditation part. Like I said, I'm still very busy with a lot of other things going on in my life. Everything's all right, but I can't believe I forgot that. And I even admitted that on my broadcast last time, and I'm admitting it now, and I'm surprised nobody in the community has made any comments about that and said anything to me. But, well, even if you did, I wouldn't be put down or anything. But I'll try not to forget that again. I'm thinking maybe next week I'll just have the whole broadcast pretty much be about meditation and maybe not the rosary. Let me know how you feel. But I want, yes, I hope your takeaway will be what I said just a few seconds ago. So until next week, take care. God bless. Please pray for me, and I'll pray for all of you. So until next week, remember, dignification is better than criticism. God bless.